Shalom from Jerusalem, and today's video is of course about the holiday of Pesach, the holiday of freedom. We talked about freedom in our many other videos, please watch them. But today we're going to talk about the holiday. And you know, Torah is a book of archetypes. It means it's about us today. And one of the important principles about every holiday is that we're not celebrating just something happened many thousand years ago. We're celebrating it because we today are getting out of Egypt. And that's what our sages tell us. We have to see ourselves and feel and experience like we're getting out of Egypt. Egypt is Mitzrayim. Mitzrayim from the word tsar, meaning narrow, meaning anywhere where we feel the narrowness in our life, we feel some heaviness, we feel we're oppressed by ourselves sometimes, by circumstances we don't know how to break. So, worldview, feeling about the world, ourselves, that's all Egypt. So we have to get out of Egypt. But paradoxically, it seems at first, but it's not really. Our sages said in order to liberate ourselves from our own Egypt, first of all, we have to focus on where are we in Egypt? Which habits do I have? Emotional habits would I have? What kind of worldview I got from the secular world and never changed? If God is right here, right now, because oneness of God means that, and He is all powerful, and He loves me, and I should have a beautiful love relationship with God. Like Rambam says that the man fall in love with a woman. If I don't have that, then I'm a slave. I'm a slave to my ignorance, I slave to my emotions, I slave to my ego, whatever I'm to ideology. So first finding out these parts in me that's where I am a slave. Then I can cry out, then I can say, Hashem, please take me out of my Egypt. Then it becomes real for me. So that's the first stage that we need to do. We also see that in the Pesach Seders there is many repetition of four. We have 4 questions, we have 4 cups of wine, we have 4 sons. So this 4, another 4s, correspond to the 4 stages of freedom. So it's in the book of Shmos, the 6 chapters, 6 and 7th pasuk, right? Passage. It says like this. It says, "I shall take you out of Egypt." The first is word is take. I'll rescue you from the service. I shall redeem you with outstretched arm, and I shall take you to me for the people. So take you out of Egypt means literally, physically remove yourself from this burden. Is leaving whatever the problem is, the place it is, the people I don't want to be associated with. It's going out of Egypt. But the second stage that take you, right, it's a rescue from the service, is now we have to take Egypt out of us. And that's a more difficult stage very often, is that because as we said, habits, old influences, they still within us. So that's the second stage. The third stage is Geulah. Geulah is redemption. It means it's never gonna repeat again, which means that I've changed with an influence of God. Of course, I changed so much that I'm a different person. So in the same circumstances, it's never going to be the same. That means I have to go to the subconscious drives that driven me to this behavior, or the way I'm looking at the world, and change them completely. And it will never happen again. And then finally, I shall take you to me as a people. That's a goal, and that's what makes it freedom and not simply liberation. Liberation would mean that God would have taken Jews out of Egypt to the border of Egypt and says, go. And we would say, where? He said, anywhere. I promise your forefathers that I'll take you out. I took you out. It says, no. The reason you go out of Egypt, the reason we go out of Egypt, is so you become my nation, my people, so we have a relationship. And that's why our sage says that if God didn't take us out of Egypt, we'd never left Egypt. We and our children and grandchildren will be still in Egypt. But wait a minute. The empires break. Every empire breaks. It's not hysterically, so it's historically. So we sit there enough, and the Egypt would also probably be conquered by somebody else. Our sage says, yes, that's true. But you see, you can physically leave the Egypt, but you would never be able to leave the system. So you were slaves, then you'll become a slave masters. You will enslave somebody else. So you see, you need somebody who is outside the system to take you out of the system. So if we don't have God in our life and feeling and relation with God, the infinite force that takes us out, we still remain in the same system. So we change places, we change circumstances, but then we come back to the same situation. We create the same situations again and again, and a lot of you knows that. So the Torah tells us about the 4 children, and again, remember, Torah is a book of archetypes, so the 4 children is not just children who comes to a Seder, different people, which is true, but it's also children inside of us. And the first one is Chacham, is a smart child. And we need to find it inside ourselves. You know, this is a child in us, and this child is very curious. He asks questions. He continues asking questions. And so what happened, we have to encourage him, because our so-called teachers, you know, and even sometimes rabbis and the parents, you know, instead of answering the question and saying, I don't know the answer, they look at us or they told us in such a way that we don't want to ask questions anymore. So you have to encourage the child and say, ask questions, continue asking questions. Then there is a rasha, there is a rebel. And some people say when the smart child didn't get his questions answers, he becomes a rebel. It's sometimes yes, sometimes different reasons. So the rebels say, what is this work, what is this service to you? And our rabbis point out that he's not asking questions, and we have to differentiate when people ask questions or it's a statement. You know, where was your God during this and this, during Holocaust? Is it a question or is it a statement? See, questions we can answer, the statements you cannot answer. So they depict that he is really, you know, making a statement. So what are they saying? They're saying that, you know, you should blunt his teeth. What do you mean blunting his teeth? Teeth we use to chew the food and also information, right? As we're chewing information in order to properly digest. And teeth we also use to bite. It's a defense. So blunt his defenses. Ask him, why do you separate yourself from Jewish people? You don't think you're going to be individual enough if you are together with us, with God? No, that's how your individuality will shine, because God gave you individuality. He wants you to reveal it to the maximum. It's opposite. You want attention, you're not going to get the proper attention this way. You want whatever benefits you think you're getting, you're not going to get by separating yourself like this. And so if you properly do it to the inner child I'm talking about, finding out why is he rebelling, you know, what does he want to benefit from, and you explain to him you're not going to benefit, you will see that his, you know, defenses will melt and you can bring him also in. The next child is Tam, and that's translated simple child, and our sage says he's not simple because it says Yaakov ish Tam, and Yaakov, our forefather, was not simple person but was complete person. And this is a kid inside of us. It's a right brain kid. You see, we have left brain that is connected to logic, and it has to do with speaking, linear thinking, one after another. And then there is a right brain, and the right brain is an artistic brain. It's a brain that can comprehend things all together, like abstract paintings, like you just look at this and you just have a feeling from this. Music, you just hear it and you just have a sense from it. And you realize that, you know, it's very hard or even impossible very often to translate it into linear type of, you know, like describing it to somebody. So what is this kid is asking? He said, Mazot. Mazot is what is this, but in feminine. So our sage says that he perceives the divine presence. And that's what he really is asking. What is it I'm feeling? What is it I'm sensing? And we're saying, you're sensing this is a strong hand. Why is a strong hand? Paradoxically enough, our Kabbalah says that the force that liberated us from Egypt and create all the plagues come from the Sfirat Malchut, manifestation Malchut, which is feminine Sfirat. So it's gentle for you, but it's very powerful. And then there's a child, Lo Yodei Lishol, don't know to ask. He doesn't know to ask because he doesn't know that our wisdom, thousands of years, have answers for his questions. So open him very, very gently. Tell this part within yourself. As a child who really thought there is no help, there is no answers, come to this child, tell him, yes, there is help, there are answers, there are great, wonderful forces that loves you. Hashem is right here, so open him up. So I hope your Seder is going to be much more meaningful. From Jerusalem, Shalom, Shalom.